Hello, friends, and welcome to our in-depth study through the book of Ezra. Today we're covering chapter 8, where Ezra organizes the second wave of returnees from Babylon to Jerusalem, emphasizing preparation, prayer, and God's protection on the journey. In this chapter, Ezra shifts from his commission in chapter 7 to the practical execution of the return. He gathers family heads and addresses a shortage of Levites by recruiting more. Then, with valuable temple treasures in tow, the group fasts and prays for safety instead of requesting a military escort. The journey takes about 4 months across dangerous territory, but they arrive safely, deliver the offerings, and settle in. It's a testament to faith in action, showing how God guards his people when they rely on him amid real risks. The big idea for this lesson is God safeguards faithful journeys. This big idea underscores how God provides protection for those who seek him earnestly during transitions and challenges. In the broader book of Ezra, this fits as part of the renewal under Ezra's leadership. Following his arrival mandate in chapter 7, chapter 8 details the physical journey, mirroring the spiritual one toward holiness seen in chapters 9 to 10. It builds on the first return in chapters 1 to 2, emphasizing that God's work involves not just destinations, but the faithful paths to get there, often through dependence rather than human strength. To support this, we'll look at 3 main events from the text. First, assembling the returnees and recruiting Levites. Second, fasting and entrusting the treasures to God. And third, the safe arrival and delivery of offerings. Let's begin with the first event, assembling the returnees and recruiting Levites. We'll read the relevant verses from Ezra chapter 8, verses 1 through 14, and then 15 through 20, summarizing the list for brevity. These are the family heads and those registered with them who came up with me from Babylon during the reign of King Artaxerxes, of the descendants of Phinehas, Gershom, of the descendants of Ithamar, Daniel, of the descendants of David, Hattush, of the descendants of Shechaniah, of the descendants of Parosh, Zechariah, and with him were registered 150 men, and it continues through various families totaling about 1,500 men. I assembled them at the canal that flows toward Ahava, and we camped there 3 days. When I checked among the people and the priests, I found no Levites there. So I summoned Eleazar, Ariel, Shemaiah, Elnathan, Jarib, Elnathan, Nathan, Zechariah, and Meshullam, who were leaders, and Joyarib and Elnathan, who were men of learning, and I ordered them to go to Iddo, the leader in Casiphia. I told them what to say to Iddo and his fellow Levites, the temple servants in Casiphia, so that they might bring attendance to us for the house of our God. Because the gracious hand of our God was on us, they brought us Sherebiah, a capable man, from the descendants of Mali son of Levi, the son of Israel, and Sherebiah's sons and brothers, 18 in all, and Hashabiah, together with Jeshiah from the descendants of Merari, and his brothers and nephews, 20 in all. They also brought 220 of the temple servants, a body that David and the officials had established to assist the Levites. All were registered by name. Now let's observe what's happening. Ezra lists 12 family groups, mostly lay people but including priestly and royal lines, like descendants of David. The total is around 1,500 men, implying a group of perhaps 5,000, including women and children, smaller than the first return. At the Ahava Canal, a gathering spot near Babylon, Ezra notices no Levites, who were essential for temple duties like assisting priests. He sends messengers to Casiphia, likely a Jewish settlement, and recruits 38 Levites plus 220 temple servants, also called Nethinim, a group dedicated to menial temple tasks, often including foreigners as per David's organization in 1 Chronicles. To explain and interpret this event, assembling reflects careful organization. Genealogies ensure purity and identity, crucial after exile to avoid the mixed worship that led to judgment. The Levite shortage might stem from reluctance. Their roles were supportive and less glamorous, and many had settled comfortably in Babylon. Recruiting them shows Ezra's priority on proper worship, as Levites handled music, teaching, and logistics per numbers. The gracious hand of God phrase echoes chapter 7, attributing success to divine favor, not just persuasion. Historically, this second return under Artaxerxes strengthened the Jerusalem community, adding skilled personnel. It highlights that renewal requires the right people in place, directed by God. Tying this back to the big idea, God safeguards faithful journeys, we see him providing essential team members, ensuring the group is equipped before setting out. For personal application, think about preparing for a big move or project. Like scouting a sports team to fill key positions, God assembles what's needed when we seek diligently. This challenges how we behave. In the empty places in your life, such as team shortages in work or ministry, actively recruit while trusting God's hand to bring the right help. Let's turn now to the second event, fasting and entrusting the treasures to God. Here are the key verses from Ezra chapter 8, verses 21 through 23 and 24 through 30. There, by the Ahava Canal, I proclaimed a fast, so that we might humble ourselves before our God and ask him for a safe journey for us and our children, with all our possessions. I was ashamed to ask the king for soldiers and horsemen to protect us from enemies on the road, because we had told the king, "The gracious hand of our God is on everyone who looks to him, but his great anger is against all who forsake him." So we fasted and petitioned our God about this, and he answered our prayer. Then I set apart 12 of the leading priests, namely Sherebiah, Hashabiah, and 10 of their brothers. And I weighed out to them the offering of silver and gold and the articles that the king, his advisers, officials, and all Israel present there had donated for the house of our God. I weighed out to them 650 talents of silver, silver articles weighing 100 talents, 100 talents of gold, 20 bowls of gold valued at 1,000 derricks, and 2 fine articles of polished bronze, as precious as gold. I said to them, "You as well as these articles are consecrated to the Lord. The silver and gold are a free will offering to the Lord, the God of your ancestors. Guard them carefully until you weigh them out in the chambers of the house of the Lord in Jerusalem before the leading priests and the Levites and the family heads of Israel." Then the priests and Levites received the silver and gold and sacred articles that had been weighed out to be taken to the house of our God in Jerusalem. Observing the text, Ezra calls a fast to humble themselves and seek safe travel for people and possessions. He avoids asking Artaxerxes for protection to back up his testimony of God's hand. God answers their prayer. Then Ezra entrusts massive treasures, about 25 tons of silver, 3.75 tons of gold, plus valuables, to 12 priests, consecrating them for careful guarding until delivery. Interpreting this, fasting was a biblical practice for seeking God in crisis, involving abstinence to focus prayer, as in Esther 4. The journey was perilous, 900 miles through deserts with bandits, lasting 4 months. Treasures worth millions today, a talent about 75 pounds, derrick, a gold coin, tempted robbery. Ezra's shame shows integrity. His faith claim to the king demands consistency. Entrusting to priests underscores holiness. Consecrated means set apart, like in Leviticus. This event contrasts human security with divine, fulfilling Psalm 121's promise of God as keeper. It models dependence, where faith isn't presumption but active seeking. Connecting this to the big idea, God safeguards faithful journeys through answered prayers and consecrated efforts, as seen in the fast and treasure handling. Imagine a hiking group fasting before a treacherous trail, entrusting gear to trusted members. It builds unity and reliance. For application, this speaks to vulnerable transitions in life. Perhaps you're facing a health journey or career shift. Instead of solely human safeguards, seek God first. This text challenges what we believe. Is God's protection real, or do we default to worldly backups? In the empty places in your life, like insecurity during change, humble yourself in prayer for his safeguarding. Let's examine the third event, the safe arrival and delivery of offerings. We'll read from Ezra chapter 8, verses 31 through 36. On the 12th day of the first month, we set out from the Ahava Canal to go to Jerusalem. The hand of our God was on us, and he protected us from enemies and bandits along the way. So we arrived in Jerusalem, where we rested 3 days. On the 4th day, in the house of our God, we weighed out the silver and gold and the sacred articles into the hands of Meremoth, son of Uriah, the priest. Eleazar, son of Phinehas, was with him, and so were the Levites Jozabad, son of Jeshua, and Noadiah, son of Binnui. Everything was accounted for by number and weight, and the entire weight was recorded at that time. Then the exiles who had returned from captivity sacrificed burnt offerings to the God of Israel: 12 bulls for all Israel, 96 rams, 77 male lambs, and, as a sin offering, 12 male goats. All this was a burnt offering to the Lord. They also delivered the king's orders to the royal satraps and to the governors of Trans-Euphrates, who then gave them cooperation. Observing closely, they depart on Nisan 12, around April, arriving after 4 months. God's hand protects from ambushes. After resting, they audit and deliver treasures to temple officials, recording everything. Sacrifices follow: 12 bulls for tribes, 96 rams, 77 lambs, 12 goats, symbolic numbers for completeness and atonement. They present Artaxerxes' orders to local governors for support. To explain and interpret, the safe arrival fulfills the fast's prayer, crediting God's hand explicitly. Resting 3 days echoes Joshua 3 before crossing Jordan, preparing spiritually. Auditing ensures accountability, preventing corruption. Sacrifices, burnt offerings wholly consumed, express dedication and thanksgiving, per Leviticus. The numbers, multiples of 12, 7, evoke wholeness and perfection. Delivering orders secures ongoing aid from satraps, provincial governors in the Persian system. This event completes the journey, transitioning to settled worship, and foreshadows issues in chapter 9. It demonstrates God's faithfulness, turning potential loss into gain. This event ties to the big idea: God safeguards faithful journeys, evident in the protected travel and successful delivery. For personal application, consider a road trip arriving safely after prayers. It leads to gratitude and sharing stories. Similarly, when God brings you through trials, respond with offerings of praise. This challenges how we think. See arrivals not as luck, but divine safeguarding. In the empty places in your life, like unresolved travels or metaphorical journeys, celebrate completions with worship. In conclusion, let's restate the big idea: God safeguards faithful journeys. We've seen this through the 3 main events: assembling the returnees and recruiting Levites, fasting and entrusting the treasures to God, and the safe arrival and delivery of offerings. These reveal how preparation, prayer, and praise invite God's protection. Reiterating personal application, this text challenges how we think, believe, and behave. It reshapes thinking by viewing risks as opportunities for faith, strengthens belief in God's active hand over journeys, and calls us to behave with humility, like fasting before big steps. In the empty places in your life, whether literal trips or life transitions, seek His safeguarding for secure arrivals. May He plant deeply in your barren places, yielding abundance you can't yet imagine. Now take a look at the show notes for questions to reflect on. You can use them in your small group or just take a few moments to reflect on your own. If you like this study, please like and subscribe for more just like it. Until next time, grace and peace.